for you. Resilient, stronger than power, soft as a flower. I know the hour, I am the times. It's the strength for me, it's the strength, it's the legacy.
Hi, 'tis the season. I am Gwen McKinney, and I am the creator and campaign director for Unerased Black Women Speak. And in case you don't know it, Unerased is an initiative that is focused on narrative development, storytelling, content creation for, by, and about Black women. Our primary goal is to not only tell our stories, but to amplify our voices and to ensure that we are seen, heard, and unerased. So tonight, I'm just really honored. This is both an opening and closing for me. I'm opening our show, which is going to be our last Facebook Live of the year. And it's a very special one because it's during the Yuletide season when most folks are focused on joy. And in fact, the theme of our show tonight is Joy to the Word. And we're celebrating Black women, storytellers, authors, and most important, Black women readers. That's you. That's everybody out there in the audience. And maybe some brothers if you're joining us tonight. And the focus is on joy because at the end of the day, that's what we have. And I'm not talking about a flighty kind of happiness, but joy. The things that just bring you, that lift your heart and warm your soul. The things that make you say, hey, I am glad I'm here and that I live to fight another day. That is joy. And it brings me real joy to thank the team that I have been blessed with collaborating with over this past year. Special shout out to Linda Jackson Leslie, Alyssa Davis, Levi Perrin, Antoinette, I guess Antoinette is using her, is maintaining her maiden name. Alyssa, I did mention Alyssa Davis, April McKellar Presley, Holly Holiday, and Javita Hill, and Alex Kavoris. And I'd like to thank all of you for the hard work and the commitment and the passion that you have brought to the work. Special shout out to Javita Hill and Patricia Ford, who have both been dedicated warriors and champions for the cause of Unerased. So tonight it gives me pleasure to pass the mic to Marcy Thomas. Marcy is joining us as our host for this show. Marcy is an aficionado of Black women books and stories as the founder and the director of the Brown Girl Collective. Hi, Marcy.
Hi, how are you doing?
Well, I'm joyous, and I'm so happy that you are here. And I'm particularly happy because I'm going to hand off to you and say to you and to everyone, have a safe, sane, and joyous holiday season. And to you, thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. It's my honor to be here with you and partner with you to start She Wrote the Book. So this is the first of many collaborations, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. As Gwen mentioned, I am Marcy Thomas, founder of Brown Girl Collective and a little thing called the BGC Book Club, where I always have the pleasure of talking to Black women writers on a weekly basis. Because as you can see by looking behind me, I love to read and I love sharing the books that I enjoy reading with others. So tonight, I'm super excited to come to you for this She Wrote the Book partnership and to be able to bring joy to the word. That's what we're going to be discussing this evening. So I have a group of very special guests that are with us live and some others that'll pop up a little bit later. But I want to start out by introducing tonight's special live in studio guest. I have, first of all, Tracy Michelle Lewis Jiggets, who is a writer and thought leader who offers those who read her work and hear her speak an authentic experience, an opportunity to explore the intersection of culture, identity, and faith spirituality. She is also the host of the podcast Heart Talk with Tracy Michelle and founder of Heart Space, a healing community created to serve those who have experienced trauma of any kind through the use of storytelling and the arts. As a writer, Tracy has actually published 18 books. Can you all believe that? 18 books, including several collaborations with numerous high-profile authors. Tonight, we will chat with her about her groundbreaking book, Black Joy, Stories of Resistance, Resilience, and Restoration. So welcome to the room, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you in the room. Up next, we have Emily Rumble, who is an avid reader, freelance writer, and clinical psychotherapist with a Bachelor of Arts in Literature from Mount Holyoke College and a Master's of Social Work from Smith College for Social Work. As the powerhouse behind Lit Therapy NYC, she uses bibliotherapy as a healing tool to assist her clients and her ever-growing social media community. So welcome, Em, as well.
Thank you so much, Marcy. I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight. Thanks for having me.
I'm so pleased to have you as well. And last but definitely not least, we have Olivia F. Scott, who is the founder of Freedom of the Mat and is a wellness advocate and certified yoga teacher who developed all content for the Essence Wellness House in 2018 and continues to work with them annually. She also creates community and workplace wellness experiences through her Freedom at the Mat Benefit Corporation. Combining her marketing expertise as the founder of Emerge Alliances, academic research efforts as a marketing professor, and wellness advocacy, Olivia works to help women prioritize their total well-being and create accessible wellness for them all. So welcome to the space, ladies.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. It's a blessing to be here tonight.
Yes, yes. And I feel joyful, just as Gwen said, coming into the space. I feel especially joyful to have each and every one of you here with us tonight. So I want to start out, of course, we know about joy, and 'tis the season for joy. But joy means different things to different people, of course. When I looked at the definition, as a noun, it means it's an emotion evoked by well-being, success, or good fortune. It also means the expression or exhibition of such emotion and a state of happiness. Last but not least, as a verb, it means to experience great pleasure or delight. So what each one of you in turn, and we can start with Olivia, what does joy mean to you specifically?
I think for me, of the definitions you shared, the one that resonated with me the most was around it being a state. You know, it's a mindset and it's a feeling that for me, if I think about a synonym for joy, for me, it's peace. It's walking around living my life knowing that I've got this peace in my life. I'm living my life every single day in joy. Joy is a mindset, it is a decision, and it's something that it's beyond gratitude, but gratitude is at the root of it for me.
All right. Thank you. Em, what's your take on joy?
I'm here just thinking hallelujah to what Olivia said, because I feel like for me, joy is a feeling of deep contentment that's not dependent on anything external. And I think it takes a while to cultivate that, right? You got to live a little, go through some stuff and really get clear about who you are, what you value, so that you can enjoy that deep sense of contentment. and it's something that has to be cultivated every day. I was recently, well, actually just reading Tracy's book in preparation for today's conversation, and she talks about this brother that she drove by in Philly who was washing cars, and on his sign he said, "I was born to wash cars." And she talks about how deeply touched she was because there was such a clarity in his purpose that to somebody else it might be, oh, he's washing cars, but to him, he's happy washing cars. This is what he does, and he's proud of it, and he's like, hey, I'm out here. And I think that's what joy is for me. It's like living with passion and purpose and having that level of clarity about who you are and the meaning that you bring to the world. It's a feeling of deep contentment that the world can't take away.
Thank you, Em. And last but not least, Tracy.
I want to co-sign what both Olivia and Em said. I think what I would just add is that I want us to not forget that it truly is an embodied experience, that we really do feel joy. And so I would add to that it is a physiological response to pleasure. So whether it's externally or internally happening, our bodies are responding to that moment, that thing, that feeling. And it's letting us know that it is experiencing pleasure. And I think especially for Black and Brown folks, understanding that it is an embodied experience allows us to be able to tap into it when other emotions are really big in our bodies, like rage, like sorrow, like grief, right? And so sometimes tapping into it is hard to figure out, well, how can I have joy when so much is going on and it's chaotic and all of this? And so if we remember that in addition to everything that was said, it's also an embodied experience. It's something that if I know what it feels like, I can access, right? Then I think that's like a third piece I'll add to the definition of joy.
Yes, and thank you so much, all three of you, for sharing. And as it's already gone up, if you want to share your definition of joy in the comments, please do so, because we'd like for you to have your input as well. One of the things, as I was just looking up the definition, one of the other things that I saw is that joy, as you've mentioned, is an inner feeling, wherein that happiness is an outward expression. Because we can all be happy in the moment, you happy because you won some money in the lottery, or because the guy that you were waiting to call you decided to call you, or, your child got all A's, or whatever the case may be. That's a feeling of happiness, but it's different from joy. So thank you so much for, helping us to differentiate that. So, okay, being with family, yes, that brings about a joy as well. So Tracy, we're going to stick with you for a moment because you wrote the book about Black joy. So yeah. I have my copy here as well. I thank you, Em, for bringing up that particular moment, because about the young man who was washing cars, because when I read that, I thought the same thing. It's like, I was born to talk to you. I was born to be in this space at this time. I feel like I'm walking in my purpose and able to experience joy in that way. So thank you, Em, for bringing that up. And thank you, Tracy, for sharing it. So what is it that sparked you to write about joy?
Interestingly enough, I entered my exploration, if you will, of joy through grief. I had experienced a loss. I had a family member that was killed in an act of racial violence in a grocery store in 2018. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was experiencing a tremendous amount of grief. And as a result, it was affecting my physical health. And I remember, going through all of the things that we do, like we go to all the doctors, we get all the tests and all that kind of thing. And I remember sitting in my therapist's office, and that prior to that had been doing some deep trauma work and like working on myself, as folks say, right? And my therapist asked me a pointed question. She said, Tracy, what does joy feel like in your body? And I was like, what you mean? Like I didn't know how. I was well over 40 years old and could not answer that question. I was very clear about what rage felt like and what grief and sorrow and, quote, happiness felt like. I could explain that, but I didn't really know what true joy felt like. And so I began this exploration of figuring out what joy felt like in my body, how I could call it up, how do I access it. And then that got me researching how my ancestors were able to experience and have joy and be resilient in the midst and in the face of terrible circumstances. And so I love that you brought back up like this idea. Mentioned that it's not happiness, right? Because it's not. When my ancestors' circumstances on a plantation weren't terribly happy, they still were able to find joy. It was something deeper within that they were able to tap into and hold on to in the midst of this horrific circumstance. And so I just began to do the research, and that led to me writing an essay for the Washington Post on Black joy as a form of resistance. This is right during what people call Black Summer 2020, lots of protests going on. And what I was observing at home as well as in the streets around joy and pain kind of living in the same space. And then everything just kind of took off from there.
Yes, and the book is powerful just in and of itself, but based upon some of the things that we have been going through and trying to navigate our way through, dealing with a pandemic, dealing with that Black Summer, dealing with some of us are deciding to do different things with our lives, based upon the things that happened at that time, and really just navigating a whole lot of complex feelings and emotions all at the same time.
Yes.
But one of the things that I like, you define Black joy, because we know there's joy and, anyone can have joy, but there's something that's very special and distinctive about Black joy. What exactly does Black joy mean to you?
Black joy really is all of what the universal experience of joy is housed in the melanin, in the experience of this melanin and the cultural expressions that come from this melanin, right? And so it's different, it's unique to us. It's the reason why, we just came off of the Thanksgiving holiday in America, and like there's a hashtag on Twitter called Black at Thanksgiving. And it's the reason why someone in Oakland, someone in Atlanta, someone in West Africa, someone in Caribbean, all can connect somehow to these same experiences. But it's not the same. We're not monolithic at all, right? We all have different experiences, but there's something about the experience that we connect to. There's a theme, right? And so our joy is just the cultural expression of that tension between our historical experience, our present day experience of pain and trauma, and in spite of, right, the resilience, the innovation, the creativity, the wellness that we've been able to access and hold on to in spite of everything that we've been through. And so Black joy is distinct. I get a lot of people who say, well, it's creating division, or isn't joy just joy? And I always just think of like, when you attempt to remove something from a group of people, so in this case, enslavement, segregation, our history, especially in this country, even across the diaspora, we weren't allowed, or we weren't afforded joy in a lot of ways. The only way that you put it back is you put it back by naming it. So I'm going to name my joy as Black joy, because it's the Black part of my joy that was taken. That Black on Black joy matters, because that's the piece of it that I am retaining and reclaiming for myself. And so I think that's just a long-winded answer to your question.
It's very needed, and I appreciate you taking the time to give us clarity on that. For those who may not, understand, and we have a common joy and grief are not mutually exclusive. We can have both, and we can choose joy without sublimating our grief and trauma.
Absolutely.
Any conversation where Black women come together to heal is a great conversation. I would agree with that. Thank you so much. And it is totally different and special. Absolutely. Now, in the context of the story, we don't have the time to read through everything in the book, but it is broken down into sections where you talk about Black stories of resistance, stories of resilience and stories of restoration.
Mhm.
Why was it important to focus on those three particular areas in your breaking down of what joy means?
Yeah. When I was thinking about the stories that I wanted to tell, these three movements, came to me. And I didn't coin Black joy as resistance. It was out there. That's what people were saying. It was evident by the way that we showed up in spaces, that our joy was a defiance. It's like, the old hymn, and the M mentioned it, right? The world didn't give it to me and the world can't take it away, right? Like, so this idea that our joy is defiance. And I think that was firmly defined already. And I just used my personal stories and personal experience to express what that is. But then I thought, but it's not just resistance.
Right.
If we couch our joy, if we define our joy as just resistance, then it's centering somebody else. It's
Right.
not centering, because we're always thinking of our joy in relationship to, what we're standing against or what we're defiant against. And so while that's important, I wanted to think about, okay, well, joy is also how we've been able to be resilient. It's the way that, our innovation and our creativity was born. It's the reason why every American musical genre is born from our pain, right? So the joy that we give through jazz and hip hop and country and rock and roll and blah, 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 all of the musical genres, that joy that people get when they listen to it it goes all the way back,
right?
Like, to our rhythms and our trauma and our grief and our pain that we put into the work. And so resilience was important for me to explore, like Black joy as resilience. It's our creativity and innovation that shows up. But then I think the most important thing for me was the restoration, because I think it's the part that we don't spend enough time on. It's about the healing power of joy. So yes, joy is a resistance. It's something that we can strategically wield in the face of, those who seek to diminish us or disenfranchise us or, dehumanize us. Like, yes, absolutely. And it's a thing that we can use to press forward, to be resilient, to be excellent, right? But it's also the way we heal. And
Right.
that's the piece that's separate from any other group and what anything that happens to us. We wield Black joy as a way to heal our bodies and to heal ourselves for us and for the generations to come. And I really feel like our ancestors are like, they don't want us necessarily, they want us to remember and to hold true, right? Sankofa, look back and remember what they did, but remember that they gave us access, and that access is what we use to go forward and to heal. And so our joy is a healing mechanism, right? And so it was important for me, for my own life, to explore those three movements, but then also hopefully to share bits and pieces of how that shows up just in the collective.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, and we do appreciate it. Everyone, if you haven't had a chance to read Black Joy, Stories of Resistance, Resilience, and Restoration yet, please grab a copy and read it, because there's just so much richness within the book, and I know that you will get something out of it and share it with others as well. Now, since we are talking about books and we're talking about joy, so I asked you all before if you had specific books that gave you joy that you just wanted to share with the audience that perhaps they can pick up and read. I am going to start with Olivia. Oh, you're muted right now.
So I think most recently, How We Heal with Alex L. is one that I'm really enjoying. That is one that I love. And I also like Danielle Smith. I mean, it's more fiction. It's a combination of her historical tale, her career, but it's also about the journey of her as a Black woman and the history of Black women in music. So you're kind of watching the trajectory of two different women, whether it's her parallel with Natalie Cole, parallel with Phyllis Wheatley. And it's really, really interesting to read that book. It's more intellectual, but How We Heal, just from a joy perspective with Alex L., I'm really enjoying that one as well.
All right. And I wish I knew. I actually have those back there. So how Alex L. and Shine Bright by Danielle Smith.
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you for sharing, Olivia. M.
I want to share this beautiful collection. It's an anthology of short stories, Black Boy Joy, curated by Kwame Mbalia. I love this collection of short stories. It's written by a group of Black men and non-binary authors, all centering Black Boy Joy in whatever form it takes, not censoring trauma at all. Black boys are going on adventures, baking cookies, loving their folks, being loved on. I have read this book 17 times, and I'm probably going to read it 17 more times over. I've read it with bibliotherapy clients, but honestly, I ended up just reading these out loud to my own kids and for myself. This book brings me so much joy. Look at this gorgeous cover. I mean, yeah, definitely check it out. Contemporary short stories, Black fantasy stories, science fiction. There's such an array within this collection. So I'm going to go with this one today.
All right. Thank you. And Tracy.
Right now, I'm reading Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey. I am just invested in anything that has to do with bodies and embodiment and that kind of thing, and that kind of wholeness, wellness conversation. And you know, anybody who knows the Nat Bishop knows that she pulls no punches.
Right.
And so that book has been challenging for me, because in the midst of talking about joy, I'm also doing that balancing act, right? I'm holding my grief while I'm holding my joy. And sometimes that work means that I'm not taking time to rest and to be still and to commune with those same ancestors I was just talking about 5 minutes ago, right? So like I think the book is for all of us. It's for all of us who need to embrace stillness and struggle with that, and want to figure out what wholeness and wellness looks like for us in our lives. And so that's the one that's first of mine. But I love How We Heal, and I love Alex L. So thank you, Olivia, for that. Black Boy Joy is everything. So yes, all good ones.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And actually, mine is going to come up here in a moment, so I'll let you guys see what mine was for this season. But in the meantime, we have a very special video from some of our favorite writers that we're going to share, that where they're talking about some of their favorite books that can bring them joy. And actually, one of them has already been mentioned, so that's pretty exciting. So look for Alelia Bundles, Marita Golden, and Diane McKinney-Whetstone as they share the books that bring them joy.
It's filled with fabulous photos of little Black girls dressed in amazing costumes.
I love this book, and I'm telling everybody I know.
Stories of Family by contemporary Black writers brings me so much joy.
Here are two things that brought me joy this year: the Madam Walker Barbie and Glory, Magical Visions of Black Beauty, because it's filled with fabulous photos of little Black girls dressed in amazing costumes with glorious hairstyles, doing the things that they love to do. I love these two things because they help Black girls see themselves and love themselves and face the world with confidence.
Hi, I'm Marita Golden, and I want to share with you the book that brought me the most joy. The book is Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey. I love this book, and I'm telling everybody I know, every Black woman I know, to read this book. Rest is Resistance is about rest, about finding your inner spirit, finding your soul. It is about rest, physical rest. It's also about mental health rest. This is a book that will help you live the rest of your life, that will help you get the rest of your life. This is a great book. It brought me tremendous joy, and I know it will do the same for you.
I'm Diane McKinney-Whetstone, and this anthology, Mending the World, Stories of Family by contemporary Black writers, brings me so much joy. Edited by Rosemary Robotham with a powerful preface by by Dr. Maya Angelou, and selections from such greats as Jamaica Kincaid, Alice Walker, Jelani Cobb, to name a few. This book brings me joy because it's stories about our families, and family brings me joy.
All right, that was super exciting to see and to see Rest is Resistance yet again. Also, something special that's dropping today is our book list for 12 Books of Joy, and those are the ones that have been chosen. So it's pretty exciting to see the books, and you all can check out the Unerased Winter book list. The one that I chose was this one, and that is The Way Home by Cardia Brown, a celebration of sea islands, food, and family. And even though it's a cookbook, one thing, cookbooks aren't what they used to be.
Right.
You know, now they include stories and talk about family traditions and things like that. But I love it because I have a connection to the Sea Islands with family that lives in Southeast Georgia. And I just love being able to read these recipes because I didn't get the recipes from my grandmothers, but this is a way for me to start to build some of those traditions and things like that for myself. So I am super excited, and this was my choice for the book list. So check it out if you get a chance. Now moving along to M, who is the specialist in books and helping us learn to navigate joy and so many other things through our reading. So tell us, when did you fall in love with books, M?
Oh man, I fell in love with books early. As young as goodness, I'd say maybe my first grade teacher, Miss Parkins, was really the one who fostered my love of books. Before I got to her, I loved them, but she was the one who got me my library card. She was the one who encouraged me to start writing. I'll never forget my first grade teacher. I don't know where she is, but I shout her out on every podcast or panel I do because Miss Parkins needs to know that that's my heart. It really started in her classroom. But I think in general, I was raised by my grandmother. My parents were teen parents. And so, it's different being raised by your grandma because grandmas, they just love you different. And they also give you a lot of rope. And so there was just a lot of things that I was trying to make sense of in the world, that my old school grandmother wasn't really going to talk to me about. So I would just bury my head in books. And I'll never forget the first time I read Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, especially reading about the abuse that she endured. It really opened my eyes to the fact that there are many children, vulnerable children out there like myself going through really painful, scary situations. And that, we're not alone in the world. And I think that's the beautiful thing about sharing our stories and connecting with literature. It holds up a mirror to us. It helps us to see ourselves clear, but it also gives us a reality orientation about what's going on in the world. And I think that's really where it started for me. And then I kind of fell into becoming a mental health professional. When I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my degree in literature, it kind of honestly, I knew that I was always going to do something creative with the creative arts. I didn't know that it was going to be a mental health track. So that part of it was unique. But my first internship in social work school was at a day treatment facility for adults with schizophrenia. And everybody kept saying, oh, they just come here to get their breakfast, their lunch, and they don't really need any enrichment. They're not going to respond to that. But I had been tasked with developing my own therapy group. And for the purpose of socialization, they said. So I said, okay, well, I'm a literature buff. I'm going to do a poetry group. And everybody laughed because they said, Emily, these clients are disorganized in their thinking. I mean, a poetry group, they're not going to respond to that. And I said, well, y'all said they needed to be socialized, right? We're going to come together. We're going to read some poetry and we're going to eat some snacks and we'll see how it goes. And honestly, my group was a hit. I was able to engage every single client in that milieu. People came to the point where they had to give me a little budget to get notebooks for everybody. And in that moment, it just clicked for me like, okay, people are really responding to this. People who weren't even, they were mandated to take their medication and they weren't taking it as mandated. were more lucid than ever. Like even the clinical director there became very interested in the work that I was doing. And she was like, "Are you trained as a bibliotherapist? Like, how did you even know to do something like this?" And I was like, "No, I just, growing up, I did have an aunt who was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. So I had some context. For me, it wasn't ever like a stigma ties thing. It was kind of just like, okay, they're folks just like everybody else, and they need community and connection just like everybody else. And I know poetry, so that's what I use to help them connect. And so I think that internship experience led me into school social work after I completed my degree. And then it was through school social work where I really honed my skill because, you know, growing up in the hood, our youth already deal with so much stigma around
Right.
needing mental health support. So, I was gung ho, ready to do some good mental health work. And my students were like, "Miss Emily, we are not coming to the counseling office. Like, that's no, that's social suicide in middle school." So I started pushing
Mhm.
into ELA classrooms and using some of my techniques with ELA teachers to get kids invested in the narratives that they were reading in the classroom. We would do role play, we would do debates, and kids really got into it. And it also got them owning their own stories, with pride and without shame and curious about my story. So we did some good counseling work. And then eventually, as you begin to get people's guards down and decrease the stigma and build trust, I was able to get some of my students into the counseling room. So that's kind of where it started.
And that's just so exciting because as a person who loved to read as a child, I remember going to the library and getting the books and stuff like that as a little girl. But there, in so many ways, I didn't see myself in the books that I was reading. So
Right.
you are blessed to be doing it in a time when there are books like Black Boy Joy and others that actually have stories that can center the people that you're, or the children or the clients that you're working with. So that is
Yeah.
really exciting, and you are blessed to be able to do that. Now, of course, we know what bibliotherapy is as it was defined for us. What exactly do you do, or how do you use that as one of your healing modalities when working with clients?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways bibliotherapy could look. And like you said, I love that you acknowledge that because those of us that love to read, we do bibliotherapy. We've been doing it. We just may not call it that. But as a mental health professional who incorporates the use of literature, it could look different ways. Sometimes it's prescriptive, where you would recommend a book to a client based on their therapy goals. It could be for the purpose of psychoeducation. It could be a fictional text where you feel like this is going to be a really powerful story for this client to reflect on. And maybe there's some relevant themes in their life that this story can help them to process. The whole point of using literature in the therapy room is to elicit an emotional response. And so really the book matching piece is really important to the clinical process. You need to make sure that you're picking literature that's going to further along the process of the healing practice work that you're doing with the client. And so it's really important to know your client as a reader, to assess their reading style, genre preferences, and things like that. And of course, to make sure that the literature is relevant to who they are, their identity, their intersectional identity, and the themes in their life. Also, there is creative expressive bibliotherapy. This is where therapists might encourage the client to start writing, either to write their own story or to engage in some sort of journal practice, stream of consciousness writing. This could look like a therapist saying, "Hey, write a letter to your inner child, write a letter to your future self." It could also be something symbolic and ceremonial. I remember my grandmother passed away when I was 14, who raised me. And the first grief counselor that I ever worked with asked me to bring in the poem that I wrote her, that I read at her funeral. And I remember at first feeling like, "Oh, that's too vulnerable. I'm not ready to do that." But when I was ready and I was able to bring it into the therapy room, it was such a beautiful process for me. Um, to bring my grandmother's memory into the room, and that poem that I hadn't touched since I was 14. I think at the time that I read it, I was like 17. And
Mhm.
just revisiting that part of myself, it was ritualistic to bring that into my therapy practice, and very healing. So I've been the beneficiary as well of working with therapists who are skilled in the use of bibliotherapy techniques. And I think that's also enriched who I've become as a bibliotherapist. So it's a full circle sort of moment.
Well, one of the things that I had the opportunity to do, because you offer for people who may not be, even if they're not one of your regular clients, that they can get their own book prescription. So I went through the process, and it's kind of hard to see there, but I did get my own book prescription just based upon the things that I wanted to work on or wanted to spend more time delving into. And you gave me 3 books, which one is is The Personal Librarian, another Don't Cry for Me, and the last was Pause, Rest, Be, which I believe came up a little earlier as well. So I love the fact that you do that and you start a person off with a book prescription. But let's just say for someone, myself or anyone else, who, they get the book prescription and they start to read the books, what would be the next step beyond just working through the prescription that you've given them?
Yeah, so the next step would be a one-to-one bibliotherapy session where we would actually meet for 50 minutes and talk about the books that you've read. And that could look many different ways. Sometimes, we don't even have to read a whole book. We can just pull an excerpt that you felt really spoke to you or elicited some sort of response, or that you just feel really strongly about. A lot of times too, especially for people who are interested in archetypes and Jungian psychology, like sometimes you'll read something and there'll be a remembrance there, right? There's characters that we read sometimes, and there's almost something ancestral about that, what draws us to a particular character. And a lot of times writers talk about this. I'm sure, Tracy, you've had this experience where writers will say, like, a character appeared to me in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Or, in prayer or meditation, I started to really hear this ancestral voice, or this emergence of a voice within me, and I had to start writing. And so that also happens when we read. So I'm always curious to see how clients respond to the book prescription, because I'm very intuitive when I make the book prescriptions, because I may or may not know the person. So Marcy, I knew a little bit about you,
right?
But still, we had never actually spoken and connected.
Right.
So when I got you the prescription, you were like, oh yeah, I have some of these books on my TBR. I was like, oh, I should have known, she was going to know these. But that's part of the fun of it, is like figuring out who clients are as readers, because I think as a therapist, especially, I learned so much about my clients and about who they are and what they need, their inner life, through who they are as readers. So after a book prescription, typically the next thing would be to have a one-to-one bibliotherapy session. And then after that one session, sometimes clients want more, and they're like, well, can I meet with you every week for a bibliotherapy session? And sometimes I'll do that, or sometimes I'll do a group based around a particular book that a few folks have wanted to read with me, and I'll just give that as an offering. Would you like to do this in a group with other women, or would you prefer to meet one-on-one? And it's always fun when women are like, yeah, let's do a group. Right now I'm doing a group on emotional justice by Esther Arma. And it's all Black women, and it's just phenomenal. It's healing for me as well to even be able to work that way, with my sisters. That's always the fun part about this.
Well, I'm so excited you're here, and I already told you I'm going to reach out so we can go a little further in what we've already done, and we'll be having another conversation actually later on this month. So I'm excited about just delving more into what you do, because for those of us who love to read, it's just like a natural inclination anyway. But to be able to take those books and delve deeper and get lessons and just learn more about ourselves and work through our own stuff through the books that we read, I just think that that's so powerful. Well, I want to move on to Olivia, who is here with us, who I met earlier this year, and I just love Olivia so much because one of the things that you just talked about, is that she encourages people through journaling, for one thing. And Olivia, just talk to us a little bit about how you have found that journaling works well for you and how you incorporate it into your practices with others.
So journaling is, to me, a spiritual process. And I talk about it a lot. Like, a lot of times people, when they hear the word journaling, they have a very specific idea of what they think it means. Kind of like yoga too. When you hear yoga, you think, many, not us, but many people, they think, oh, it's women that are sitting in a room, women and men, and they're chanting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So similar to journaling, when you start taking journaling, people are like, oh, I have to do it every day. I got to write a whole page long, front and back. The reality is, For me, journaling can be as simple as making it a point at the end of the night or the beginning of the morning, whatever your practice is. You decide the practice for you. There's no one way to do anything, but you just writing down a thought, maybe even writing down a word. But often, once you just put that pen to paper, things will flow, right? But for those, there's so many people when they see a blank page, unlike Tracy, right? They don't know what to do. They're like, well, it's staring back at them, right? So I often advise people, okay, so fine. If a blank page is just too much, right? And writing one sentence is too much, get a guided journal. There's so many different guided journals out there. I have one as well where it'll just kind of help guide you through the process. But journaling for me, what I have found over the years, Marcy, because I've been journaling since I was a little girl. It's kind of, I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't want to put a judgment to it, but I think since I was probably about 12, everybody buys journals for me for Christmas because everybody knew that I used to write poems. I was always writing as a little girl. So what I have found with journaling is it connects me to the present moment, and it documents what's happening in my life. Right? It documents my feelings. It helps me get them out. Sometimes we have an embodiment of our emotions and our feelings, and we're like, what's happening? But if you can just get them out, sometimes there's a freedom, there is a joy that there was a place for those emotions to land.
Yeah.
That I could get them out of me. Maybe you don't have a therapist, but you got a place for them to go. What I have found just amazing in my life is to go back and look at those journals. I don't do very often, but I tell many people of the story of when I was leaving my apartment in Harlem. I was in Harlem for a really long time, and me and my ex-husband were moving over to Jersey. And I came back after the movers had moved everything out, and I just wanted to go back in the apartment to make sure that everything was gone. And there was this one journal that the movers had somehow just, I guess it fell out of a box, and it was on my bedroom floor. And I went back and I was like, it was literally just, that was it on the floor. And I opened it. It was one I had had for years. And I opened it, and there was a page in there that I had documented this whole emotion I had about my marriage. Right? Because we were moving. I was trying to make the next step to get out of Harlem to go to Jersey to try differently, but I still wasn't really sure. But this journal had documented that years before that I was in the same space. So I was like, okay, you trust yourself. You've been here, right? So that's what I find that I really enjoy about journaling, is that it allows me to get things out. And it's scary now, guys, because sometimes I'll go back and I'll be like, you were here 3 years ago, Lydia.
Right.
I
confess.
You got to move on. But it does help me document where I am. And I really enjoy the process of journaling. And I just encourage everyone to do it and to not think that it has a very specific look of what it is. It can look different for everybody.
Right. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you here and to talk about that is because, yes, we can read everybody else's story and we can get joy and work through things through other people's stories, but there's something powerful about telling your own story and, being real with yourself. And it is just for you, and you don't have to let other people read it. Or if you can work with someone like M and work through it, but there's power in being able to use your own words to tell your own story. For sure. Now, as something special for everyone this evening, one of the other things that you are excellent at doing is helping people to set intention. And because we're talking about joy tonight, I would love for you to just lead us in a brief intention setting exercise that we can incorporate more joy, not only through this season, which we know isn't always joyous for everyone. We acknowledge that. But just joy as we move into the new year as well. So the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, everybody. So I hope you guys don't mind. If you would like to close your eyes or whatever you need to do, I'm going to close mine to kind of get into my space. But I invite you right now to just for a few moments to bring some awareness to your body. I invite you to close your eyes if you would like. If you would not like, find something in front of you that's unmoving. Find some stillness in your body. Find some stillness in your mind. Find your breath right now. Nothing fancy, no numbered breathing. Just find your breath. A simple inhale and exhale. I'd like for us to just go on a brief journey towards joy. If you can find the space, if your eyes are closed, find the space between your two eyebrows to kind of still the monkey brain. Spine erect. Feet, if you will, touching the floor. Palms down or up. And just find your breath. I'm going to guide you for a moment just to kind of get us grounded for a moment and still. Inhale and exhale. Twice more. Inhale and exhale. Last time. Inhale and exhale. I invite you right now to go deep within and think about the year that you have had. We're in December. I want you to kind of go back, think about November, October, kind of go back through September, August, July, June. Go back through all the way until you get to January. I'm going to give you some space to do that. And I want you to do it slowly and think about things you were doing each of those months. Were there spaces that you were emotionally, physically? How did it feel in each of those months? Were there certain people that you were surrounded with in each of those months that brought you joy? As you are traversing through this year, can you think for a moment about at which points you experienced joy in your life? Pure, unadulterated joy. And I'll be silent as you get there. What did that joy look like? What did that joy smell like? What did that joy feel like? And as you have that particular thought, feeling, and smell of joy in your possession in this moment, I invite you to set an intention to live a life that brings you that feeling, that smell, that look of joy more frequently as we prepare to go forward in life, trusting that today is the first day of the rest of our lives. How can we live more joyful lives? What intentions can we set to be around those people, to be in those places and spaces, to feel that way? And as we close this intention setting visualization exercise, I invite you, if you will, to simply bring your chin to your chest as you stretch out your neck, but chin to chest. Prayer hands to your heart if you like, not mandatory, but chin to chest. acknowledging the intention that you've set to live your life with more joy. Namaste.
Thank you so much. That was so powerful. That was so powerful. If you have any thoughts or feelings about that, please share in the comments because that meant a lot to me. I feel a little emotion, which is okay, but I thank you for that.
Welcome.
Vivian.
Thank you.
I thank you for that because there are some very specific things that I could point to that brought me joy in the last year. And I'm definitely working to have those same feelings as we move forward. So, as a means of closing, because our time is just about up, believe it or not. It's almost over. I want to start with Tracy, and please let us know what you've got going on, because I do know you have another book that's out, as well as some of the other things that we can be on the lookout for from you going into the new year. Yes.
Thank you, Olivia.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
First, just let me just say that was so needed. And I promised myself, I said, I'm not going to get on here and start crying.
You won't be the only one.
Be all weepy and whatnot. But, I believe God knows what we need when we need it. So I thank you for that. As even a reminder in me doing this joy work that, need to stop and set the intention, right? And to know how to move forward sometimes is very differently in your soul and in your body as opposed to in your head, because I can spell it out. I can, be very intellectual and break it all down for you, but to feel it in my heart and my body in that moment was just so wonderful. My book came out in September. Then They Came from Mine, Healing from the Trauma of Racial Violence. It is a story of how, particularly those who call themselves people of faith, can reckon with what we're seeing in the world around racial violence and how we can once again use joy, peace, and all those things to heal, even as we're calling out and calling in folks who are complicit in the violence that's being made against us. And so it's a very different book from Black Joy, but it's also one that I think was probably a natural book to come after, right? Like it was something that stories that need to be told. So I'm excited about that. That is available everywhere people buy books. And I have so much that I'm working on in terms of film and television as it relates to Black Joy. And I can't say a whole lot, but I would just tell people to keep their eyes open and all their streaming bills up to date. So I'm excited about that work. And yeah, that's it. I'm online, tracymlewis.com and all of the good stuff.
Okay. M.
Yes, I want to also thank you, Olivia. Yeah, I'm gonna try not to cry too, but thank you. Something you said that resonated with me is how can I feel more of that? The people and the places that feel like light, and tonight felt like light, and you guys are light, and just to be sharing space with you all is a blessing, and I'm so appreciative. So I want more of that, and that's what I'm working towards. I'm working towards building my bibliotherapy practice, continuing to decolonize mental health, make mental health more accessible, continuing to amplify the creative arts, fighting for more arts education, especially in our public schools where all the funding is getting cut, and working on my manuscript for bibliotherapy in the Bronx.
Yes.
God willing, I can birth a third baby because I ain't having no more human ones. So. But yeah, you can check me out on social media, literaby_NYC, literabynyc.com. I'm available for bookings. You can book me directly on my social or on my website. And I'll be looking for a part-time social worker to join my practice in 2023 as well. So stay tuned for that announcement because I'm ready to hire some help.
Right, that's important. And that will bring you joy, I'm sure.
Yes, yes, amen to that.
All right, last but not least, the beautiful Olivia Scott, whom I love so much. And before you talk, I just have to share with everybody, if you got the November-December issue of Essence, this here is one of her beautiful yoga mats. It's on page 83. Tell you exactly where to go look for it. I actually have one, and she called me out because I told her it's put away right now. But please go pick up one of those. It's a beautiful, lovely gift. You can't even see it. Actually, this particular one has a Black woman on it. So it's a very beautiful yoga mat. So I just had to shout you out for that, Olivia. And what else do you have coming up for us?
So, I did a survey this year, Freedom at the Mat. I had a COVID baby. Quite a few of us have had COVID babies. And Freedom at the Mat, when I was in Harlem, I used to just teach yoga classes kind of randomly. But during COVID, we created this YouTube community and we've got like 190 videos, which is really a lot of joy. And we sell these yoga mats and journals. And I share that not as a plug, but truly I had to stop and say, okay, what's happening? What are you doing? Right? What's happening? So we did a survey and we asked our community, what do you want more of? And they actually want more conversations. They want more of this. So I'm looking forward in 2023 to really have more conversations with more sisters, helping us heal, helping us find our freedom. That's really our tagline, finding our freedom. And me growing more as well, like bibliotherapy. That's a new modality. I didn't know about it. Just really leaning more into my healing, because I find that I'm still healing too, and honoring that. So that's what I'm doing, and just trying to find, I'm going to get this Rest is Resistance book by Trisha, who I do know and used her with Essence and stuff as well. Definitely want to make sure that I make that space for rest. So that's what I got going on.
All right. Well, thank you, lovely ladies. I think several of us had the tears. Because this is very meaningful. This is a wonderful space. I actually went a little over time, but it was worth it because we need to be able to, be in community with one another and not feel like we have to rush to get through whatever needs to be said or shared. So I thank each and every one of you. This is the first time, but I'm sure it won't be the last time for us to come together and, in community as a part of She Wrote the Book, as well as in my collaboration with Unerased Black Women Speak. I am super excited for all that is to come. I wish you joy for the rest of this year and as we go into the new one. And thank you everyone for joining us. So that's all we've got for now. So have a great holiday season, everyone. And we'll see you again real soon. Thank you.
Everybody, blessings.
Bye-bye.
Our joy, it's everywhere we are. Low tech and high touch. A smile, a joke, a belly laugh. Warm sunshine, magical sunsets, rainbows in the storm. A shopping spree, a summer picnic, a girl's getaway, a friend's play date, a poem, a book, a prayer. Quiet space from a clamoring day. A Sunday brunch, a champagne toast, a decadent dessert. Soothing, breathing, stretching, or being still. A fast jig, a long walk, a slow dance. Joy is ours. Joy is us. Let's claim it, then own it.